definitely a feeling of anything goes. From the standpoint of performance and the standpoint of personal substance intake, people generally did whatever they wanted. If that meant, physical injury to themselves or bystanders, it was anything goes. Wasn't uncommon to be running from a performer so you didn't get any personal injury to yourself, only to go into the next room and see people doing cocaine off the bar, in plain view.
Since the very moment rock and roll was created, it's been splintering into subgenres. With each subgenre is a culture, or in this case, a counterculture. On the darker, seedier side of every music scene is a counterculture of abstract artists whose medium is noise and canvas your eardrums. Noise, power electronics, death industrial. These experimental artists are more influenced by the clanging of the factory at the end of the road than the rock gods on your radio. The Cleveland music scene is no exception to this counterculture, and a staple in that scene for more than 25 years is Stephen Petrus with his project Murderous Vision and his label, Livebait Recording Foundation. Welcome to My Name is Nobody, a podcast that celebrates the unsung heroes of the Cleveland music scene and beyond. In this episode, I speak with Stephen Petrus of Murderous Vision. I sat down with Stephen to speak about his lengthy career with Murderous Vision, his other side projects, as well as the documentary film City Ruins, Art in the Face of Industrial Decay. This is Stephen Petrus. These are his stories. Stephen, how are you?
Good, how about you, man?
It's great to see you live and in person.
Yeah, it's been a while.
So, you've had a long, lengthy career that I think is worthy of celebration.
Thanks.
It's been over 25 years now.
You're
right?
26.
26 right now. It's 20.
Just this Murderous Vision. I've been kind of an asshole my whole life, so technically 48.
Okay, that's what I meant with Murderous Vision. That seems to be, that's your main gig. But you have done some other side projects, which we'll get into. One of them, which is of Swine and Swill, which, I had the pleasure of putting some vocals on a couple of tracks.
Mm-hmm. And a crucial live member in our What Two shows that we played.
Right, which we'll get into.
Yeah.
Let's start at the very beginning. Little Stephen, where did you grow up?
Well, I was born in Hillcrest Hospital, Mayfield Heights. That's the little part, you know.
Right.
But yeah, the majority of my life I spent like age 1 to 10 in Wickliffe, Ohio. Moved to Parkman, Ohio for 3 or 4 years, and then my whole teenage years in Chardon.
When you were young, did you always want to do something with music, or did this come later on in life?
Pretty early, I'd say like 12 or 13.
Yeah.
I got right into music directly from playing with toys, you know. And pretty much audio's been my obsession ever since.
Right, because you have in the past played guitar a little bit, right?
Yeah, well, some version of playing guitar, but
right.
Yeah, I started out at like 13 playing guitar. Me and John Potter got guitars at like basically the same day, you know, and I did that probably until I was about 20, 21.
Just messed around with guitars.
Yeah, and played in some bands and stuff.
And I can only guess, because I have known you for a long time, and we have touched on some of this stuff a little bit, but in conversation, in passing, whatever. But I can only guess that when you were younger and playing guitars and stuff, that you were into a lot of like metal.
Absolutely.
And industrial.
Yeah.
You know.
Metal first, and industrial, like towards the end of high school, I started getting into like Skinny Puppy and
the
traditionals for
we all did
Americans.
The Ministry and stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So what gave you the idea to start doing the Murderous Vision thing? Did you do something before that, or?
Well, I met this dude through like, you know, once I moved out of my parents' house, I moved to Cleveland and started going to a bunch of parties, and I met John Dixon, which, you know, many people might know through Ball and all his other projects. But and I joined his band, Acedia, as a guitar player. They were kind of like a, you know, very ministry-based kind of thing. And the best part of that was always after we rehearsed his actual songs, we would just improv. And around the same time, me and him were both getting into like John Zorn stuff. That was, you know, oddly enough, I picked up some Painkiller because the drummer was Mick from Napalm Death.
Oh,
so,
gotcha. Okay.
So that was kind of, you know, I'm like, man, this shit is really out there. And then through that, eventually, you know, side by side with us doing these weird improv jams, you know, I'm also starting to pick up all this stuff. And then I got some Merzbow and stuff like that, and then Cold Meat Industry,
right?
You know, but at the same time,
which is a label that had tons of bands.
Oh yeah,
a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, major influence to everything I did since the day I bought the first Cold Meat CD I bought. You know, but yeah, John and me were doing all that crazy stuff, and it was simultaneous to like mail ordering all these weird things. You know, and then we started Murderous Vision. So
how would you explain Murderous Vision to somebody who doesn't understand, you know, what you do? Because it's not traditionally music in the traditional sense.
Yeah.
You don't follow like a tempo or all the time. So you do have some songs where you actually add drums and things like that.
I would say the base description, which I have been in that position like with family or coworkers or whatever, is I just say it's cinematic.
Yeah.
It's like soundscape, similar to like a movie soundtrack. And that's a great way to put it.
I never even thought of it.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, it's a good way to explain it to somebody who otherwise would listen to it and be like, what the fuck is this?
What is happening to my... Just the same, there's a lot of people out there that don't. I'm one of them. I am guilty. I can look at
I can go to the art museum and look at some paintings and be like, what the hell? I could do this, you know?
Yeah.
They drop some paint on a canvas by accident and go, masterpiece.
Yeah. Well,
You know, but
the cool thing about abstract art is it's not, and it plays into that, and I've fallen victim to that same thing, but with the abstract art has nothing to do with talent.
no.
You know, I mean, it does, but the key ingredient is the expression behind it. You know, the talent. I mean, what is talent anyhow? That's such a
Right.
fluid concept.
Right. I've seen some
know?
bands.
Yeah. You know, but somebody out there might be the shittiest rock band you've ever seen. Somebody might be like, man, this is really singing to me.
Right.
You know?
Right.
I mean, you never know. I mean, it's because the concept of talent really at the end of the day is so fluid, you know?
Yeah, that is true.
You know, I mean, like, if you look at like things industrial, you know, but you look at things in a pop culture sense or a pop music sense, to my ears, you know, I'm hearing nothing but like pure garbage, you know, but that doesn't mean that it really is.
And you,
Just because I deem it so.
and I've known you a long time, and I also know that you're not the type of person to pigeonhole yourself into one thing. You know, there's a lot of people out there. It's like, well, I listen to metal, and I only listen to metal, and I'm not going to listen to anything else because everything else sucks. You're not like that. You do have, you kind of do enjoy some other things at times.
A lot of other things.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
My
I know you're a big
collection
Led
is-
Zeppelin fan.
Yeah, I love Zeppelin. I
Right,
really
and
do.
Pink Floyd.
I mean, Floyd, early Floyd.
Yeah.
Old country. I mean, real old country.
Right.
That's,
Right.
You know.
The classic stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, everything. Everything has something that holds a piece for whatever thing you're doing in life. You know. You
Yeah.
know, everything could soundtrack something.
So you've got Murderous Vision, you're up and running, you know, and it's been 25 years. What keeps you going?
I don't see anything else that I could be doing with my life that has any worth whatsoever. You know, producing parts in a factory is the only other thing that I do that offers anything to the world.
Right.
You know, I mean, it's just something where I feel like it's what I should be doing. You know, and I get away from it for a few months, and then I start really thinking, you know, almost with a guilt sense, it's time to get back to work. You know,
Right.
and usually in those periods, I just blow product out. You know what I mean?
Right. And you have a lot. I just
Yeah.
photographed all your CDs that
Yeah.
I had, you know, and there is a pile of stuff.
Yeah.
There's one that I thought was a DVD that's a CD of live recordings, the song
Yeah.
that never sets. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
And you've done a couple of double albums.
Yeah.
Double discs.
Yeah, and the
Thanks.
retrospectives that
yeah.
are multiple, like the third volume of the Ghost series is 3 CDs.
Right, yeah, yeah.
So
You also have been instrumental in the little culture, the scene, if you will. There's a few places around Cleveland where you guys would hold shows, and you were instrumental in doing the audio-visual baptisms, and you actually even put on a experimental music festival right here in Fairport.
Yep, 3 of them.
Yeah, yeah. I
Would have did one this year too, but
You did do one?
no, we would have.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
We were on the books for Labor Day.
Yeah,
you know.
I would imagine you sat this year out because of
Yes.
the pandemic. But how would you describe the scene? The people that I've met in the scene have been, I mean, everybody. They look like if you didn't know anybody in the scene and you just were passing them on the street, they look like people that would murder your entire family. But it's quite the opposite, actually. Everybody on in the scene has been. They couldn't be more supportive of each other.
Yeah, it's a. I
Almost
mean,
like
the
a little
group's
family.
changed over time. People have come and gone, but the core of it is always basically support. You know, and a lot of people that are go-getters. You know, almost everybody involved was also booking and also releasing other people's stuff, and You know, especially like, you know, around the time of City Ruins and stuff, it was rabid.
Yeah.
I mean, and the scene still maintains a pretty strong presence now, but it was just, it seemed endless. Like, it seemed like there was never going to be a bar to top, because it just kept growing and growing, and everybody kept upping their game every single show.
Right. And
But
every major city has one of these.
yeah,
things.
yeah. It was just a microcosm of the world's scene.
Right,
you
and
know?
you have traveled with
Yeah.
Murderous Vision.
Yep.
You've played in California. You've been to Europe
Yeah.
once or twice. Was it
I've been there 3 times, but to perform twice.
twice? Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, every major city around the world has one of these scenes, and it seems like everybody knows who you are.
Fair amount do, yeah. And I know who a lot of everybody is, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, it's weird, like, sometimes when I do these out of town shows, it's like a gathering of people I know from all over the world, and it's incredibly weird. People who've been to my house and slept on the couch, and people who I slept on their couch in Chicago, I see them in Sweden. You know what I mean? That's the beauty of the scene. It's just small enough that you run into your friends like all over the world.
Right,
And
right.
it's a feeling like no other, really, just to
And I had the pleasure of driving you on a weekend jaunt one time.
Yeah, to Athens, yeah.
Yeah, and performed. Let's talk about Live Bait. Now, you
Yeah.
have a label, Live Bait Recording Foundation, and you obviously release Murderous Vision stuff, your films and your audio stuff on the label, but you've also done other bands as well. How did that label get started?
Me and John started, you know, meeting other people via writing letters and stuff like that, and purchasing other people's stuff. It dawned on us pretty quick that that's how it was done. You know, most people and still do have their own label, and originally that was just basically to get our stuff out, but it was always in the back of my mind, like, if this goes well, I can start releasing stuff for other people, and did just that. Like, I did a compilation first.
You've done a couple of compilations.
Yeah.
I photographed them this morning.
Yeah. Well, the first compilation, Bated Breath, is what, like, got my feet wet with actually asking people to, you know, trust me enough to give me a piece of audio.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And the first several releases by other people that were on Live Bait were bands that were on that comp.
Gotcha.
You know?
Gotcha.
And it just kind of grew from there. And throughout the years, it would go to a point where I would just release my own stuff, depending on, like, what funds were like. And it's currently in that place right now.
Sure.
But that's not to say that it's not on its way back to releasing for other bands. And if compilations are an indicator, there's a fantastic one coming out in December. I'm not going to release who's on it yet, but
Nice. Something to look forward to.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it has to be hard, like, making records and stuff. Like, I know, because I've done it. I release stuff on my own label as well. We do the same thing with the Lazy Bastards.
Yeah.
But it's buying CDs or having them made or whatever is not cheap. You know, it's several hundred to even over $1,000. So it's kind of hard to come up with an extra $1,000 to invest in somebody else's band.
Yeah.
If there's, you know, you have to really make sure you're going to be able to sell that product and at least make your money back, you know. But it's an amazing show of support, that's for sure. You know, which is again a testimonial to the scene.
Yeah.
You know?
Home. The monoliths of rusted iron that tower above us. The hazy landscapes thick with the smell of coal dust and slow decay. The feeling of dread, a crushing weight upon our sunken chests and broken backs. The cracks in each step of the sidewalk looking up at us like a shattered mirror. We can barely make out our own images gazing up from the concrete. Thus, we choose to draw our reflection from what we see around us. We see ourselves in the chugging turbines, the buzzing high-tension wires, the boards of rotten plywood hastily nailed over broken windows, the bleak, dirty gray of the sky, lake, buildings, and streets surrounding us. So we react. We let people know what we see. We do this by any means at our disposal, through the very way we earn our livings. Through scrap metal, electronics, computers, we use these tools to express the anger, misery, and disease wrought upon us by industrial society. We commiserate through public acts of ritual grieving, an exhibition of blood and oil-streaked canvases. We embody the crumbling metropolis around us through our folk art. We escape our chains by strangling ourselves with them further. We see ourselves in the dirty reflection of our society, and then we refract it back upon the world. We call this home, and we call this art.
So you have your label, you have Murderous Vision up and running, you have your label, you're releasing your own stuff, you're releasing stuff for other bands, you're doing the audio-visual baptisms and stuff. What gave you the idea for the documentary film?
Just the people of Cleveland.
Living here is really detrimental to your health. I saw a shirt one day that said, "You have to be tough to live in Cleveland." That's an understatement. You have to be a maniac to live here.
You know, all these guys and gals that were really busting their ass to build this scene. You know, like the audio-visual baptism, like Steve Makita was the spearhead of that. So that's what the main thing that was happening at the time was. So naturally, he was like, you know, our feature interview in the movie, because he was kind of the guy that was directing everything at that point.
Yeah.
But it's just the enthusiasm and excitement that you felt at every single show that you went to, and it's like, well, somebody's got to take up documenting this, and me and Vilk did. You know?
Yeah.
We probably were suited best to do it at the time because we had gear and stuff like that, and Aaron's a terrific writer, and he drafted all the questions for that movie. And
unlike me, who drafts no questions.
Yeah.
We're just gonna sit here.
Well,
and bullshit.
They took it really seriously, and and sat down and you know, the folders that Aaron had of just like treatment type stuff was immense, you know.
So you filmed that over the summer of 2010.
Yeah.
And I remember there was a release party.
Yeah.
I watched I went to the
in
release
December of 2010.
In December of 2010.
So we moved pretty quickly on it, you know.
How long was the film time exactly?
You mean
how long? I mean, you can say it's a summer. Was it 3 months of filming?
Yeah, I think we were wrapped on filming, but we started 4th of July weekend of 2010 at the Champaign Fest. Now that's Class. And I think we pretty much wrapped up filming by like September.
Okay, so a couple months.
Yeah, and then it took many months to edit than it
seems
did
like about the same.
Yeah.
It's like 3 months of filming. 3 months. If you were wrapped in September and the release was in December, it's 3 months.
Yeah, I guess
3 months of editing. Yeah, the editing only seems longer because that's not the fun part.
Yeah,
you know
exactly.
what I mean? The fun part is going to the shows and putting people in front of the camera.
It becomes fun once you're nearing the final bend and you're starting to see the body of the work together at once. And when we were getting towards the end of City Ruins, we were really like looking at it like, wow, this came out far better than we anticipated. Like, how did we pull this out of our ass?
Right.
You know,
and it looks great.
Yeah, it came out well.
While I was doing my pre-interview research and stuff, I ended up watching it again, not only to pull clips from it for this, but I just had it on in the background. You know, as I was working, and it. I don't want to diminish your work or what you do, but it's a real documentary film.
Yeah,
it really is. And
that's what I mean. Like when we were getting towards the end of it, we were like, you know, this came out, you know, like
really cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's not that we had doubts in our abilities to do something, but it actually looks like something that I would buy from somebody else and wouldn't bitch about. You know what I mean?
Or stream on Netflix or something.
Yeah,
you know, I totally would watch it. You know, but the DVD I have of your film works, the film works of Stephen Petrus, which I think was released in '08 or something.
Yeah,
like that. Which it really is just music videos.
Yeah, more or less. Yeah.
But you have also filmed some stuff for other bands.
Yeah.
There was one you did for Swine and Swill, but the Flint Nap as well.
Yeah.
Which is some friends of ours.
I did a music video for Pale Creation.
Yeah, Pale Creation,
Yeah.
which is one of my old bands.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, they all look great. So you can see, the work that you've done early on with the filming up until City Ruins, how you've progressed and things have gotten better.
And then I hit a brick wall because I've done very little since.
That's not true.
Yeah.
You've just been busy with your music.
Yeah.
You've been releasing a ton of records.
Yeah.
Which is, you have a pile of material, you know. It's unwavering, But and that's like a testimonial to your career, because you've been unwavering in what you do. You're not giving in to anybody. You do what you want to do, and you've done it for 25 years. And there's actually people out there that have listened to your stuff. And
It's amazing.
No, but I mean, listen to your stuff and went out and created their own bands.
Yeah.
Because they like, well,
I really hope that would be great.
well, there is. I know one for a fact.
Yeah. Oh, cool.
My nephew, Larry Johnson, who does
awesome.
the casket splinter thing.
Yeah.
When he first started messing around with stuff, and then I was like, I didn't even know he was doing this, He was playing bass a little bit, but I went to his house one time, and I brought him some Murderous Vision stuff and of Swine and Swill CD and stuff. It's like, here, like, listen to this, and when after that day, he just went off and recorded that whole album.
And it's good. I listened to it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't sound like Murderous Vision, so other than like, they could be in the same genre.
He lives in a small town.
Yeah.
And where he's at out there in Jefferson, there's nobody else like him.
Yeah.
There's no noise scene. There's not even punk rockers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So everybody has been telling him to stop.
Yeah.
To stop. So when I brought him those CDs, and I was like, there is a whole scene of people in Cleveland that do this stuff. And like one of them is a dear friend, Steven. Here's his stuff, and then we wanted to take him to an audiovisual baptism or a noise lunch.
Yeah.
Something at Now That's Class, and we never got around to it, and then the pandemic hit. But I guess not only was it an influence, but it also kind of made him realize that he's not alone.
Yeah.
And what he's doing is not stupid. It's not a waste of time. It's that there's people out there that would appreciate it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's
a good life lesson to learn to just ignore people who don't know what the fuck you're talking about or doing,
Right.
I mean,
your Murderous Vision and your projects and stuff were instrumental in that
That's
16-year-old kid going, you know what, I'm going to do this, and because there's other people out there that are doing this, that are influenced by this stuff.
That's awesome. That's a facet I never even considered. So
yeah, absolutely.
That's really great.
It's after 26 years of doing this, there's going to be people out there that are influenced, by your body of work, or just can look at it and go, that's fucking impressive.
Yeah. This guy is really knows how to burn through money for no good reason. In the early days, I said I could get into scratch-off tickets, or I could release CDs.
But it's not burning money, because it's something you enjoy doing. It's what makes you happy.
Yeah, exactly.
People can say the same thing about me. Well, this guy likes to burn through money because he has a $4,000 base. I'm like, when I die, I'm going to be like, boy, did I waste a lot of money.
What else would a guy that doesn't ever want to buy a home or buy a new car, likes to drive shitty cars, what else am I going to do with my money? Take it with me in my coffin?
Right. Exactly. That's kind of how I look at it. So now I have a wife and responsibilities. But
well, I still have responsibilities that I have to hold down, but
you have a dog.
Yeah, a dog. I have a girlfriend, and we have our goals, and but it's what I do. I really literally could dig for 10 years to find what my other purpose would be, and come right back out of the same hole,
Yeah.
right back here.
And you mentioned you have a girlfriend, Pauline.
Yeah.
and she kind of does the same thing as well. She has a project that she's done, the Cunting Daughters.
Cunting Daughters, and she works solo too. Yeah.
So, I mean, it works great that you have somebody that's involved in the scene and supportive as well.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I can't imagine. I mean, I'm not saying like I'm a terrible person to coexist with, but I can't imagine it's always nice and easy, you know. I'm obsessed with buying music, and, you know, almost every day there's something sitting on the doorstep, and, you know, our house is crowded already, and here comes all these other records, and she takes it in stride, you know.
You had the church
Yeah.
in Painesville.
Me, John, and Toby,
Toby,
basically.
yeah, rented that place out.
Yeah.
Which is where we recorded the first Church of the Lazy Bastard CD.
Yeah.
You did produce that for us, which was awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm still proud of how that came out too.
Yeah. I met John Potter, and we you got the Of Swine and Swill project going. What gave you the idea to do that? Just to do something different?
Yeah, well, me and John grew up together, and we both started like trying to make music at the same time, and had a, you know, I wouldn't call it a band, but we were striving for a band back when we were like 14 years old, and somehow we just kind of always knew at least we would make an album someday back then, and you know, he was in Flint Knapp at the time, and I was doing my thing, and we co-rented the church, and things were kind of, you know, going south with Flint Knapp, and we were just like, we have everything we need here. Why don't we just see what we can do?
Yeah.
And so from those modest means, we just like started working on stuff, and we got one song, and we're like, wow, and just every day, we met every day for over a year, I would say, in that place, and either worked on stuff or mixed stuff or sat back and partied and listened to it, you know.
Yeah. And that's a little different from what you've done in Murderous Vision. It's a little more structured. Almost, you know, John played guitar.
Yeah.
And it's almost like a psychedelic rock record in a way.
Yeah, well, I mean, definitely our Pink Floyd influences came out, you know, and I mean, that was John's thing, you know. He was into spaced out psychedelic music, and I kind of, once we reconnected, you know, after not seeing each other for a great number of years, I started showing him some of the stuff that I was into, and surprisingly he liked it too, you know. Yeah. So we mixed, you know, all of his influences with the experimental stuff, and plus, you know, I harbored some of those influences too, so none of it was really planned to be so eclectic or structured as it turned out to be, because, you know, we were just kind of working on stuff, but it did turn out to be a pretty eclectic record. There's a lot of variety on it. And we were super impressed with ourselves when it was done. Like, holy shit, we made this thing, you know?
Yeah, and it's a great record.
Yeah.
You know, and there's two songs in particular that I'm quite fond of.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you were a natural person to ask and to help, you know, and you provided some guidance on some of the mixing too. You know, like we had questions about like certain things, because, you know, I had done the experimental stuff, but that had mic'd instruments and everything else. And then when we did the Lazy Bastards record, I learned a lot, you know, learning how to mic a stand-up bass and a drum kit.
I still don't know how to do that.
Yeah, I think you just go for it.
Luckily, it was a small drum kit.
Yeah,
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, my name is Mark Malachik. It's spelled M-L-A-C-H-A-K. I'm the fire chief of Painesville City Fire Department. We received a call about 5:12 this morning that there was a reported fire at 50 South Street. Units responded, arrived by 5:14, sorry, 5:16 this morning, and upon arrival they found heavy fire coming out of the front of the building. We ran into a lot of problems with the weather. We had some water problems early on, low water pressure. We're not sure why that is. If it's weather related, I'm sure it's weather related. We're not sure if it's a broken water main or something in our vehicles, but they did start aggressive interior firefighting until such time as the second floor flashed with concern of collapse. To our knowledge, all the residents have been accounted for except for one. We're not sure where that resident is. At this point in time, we're treating it as a possible fatality.
Your house burned down.
That was pretty sweet.
And there's a reason why I want to talk about this.
Yeah.
First of all, tell me about that morning. What you remember.
Well, thankfully, it was a low alcohol night the night before. I kind of went to bed early. It was freaking cold, and it had been like sub-zero for weeks, and I was just like actually depressed about it. I was just done, so I was going to bed early and went to bed. And then all of a sudden I hear all this ruckus at like 5 in the morning. It sounded almost like there was a domestic dispute downstairs or something, and banging and screaming and all kinds of stuff. So I woke up and I ran downstairs because I realized somebody was pounding on my door. And it was these two gentlemen, and they're like, "Your house is on fire." And they were like, "Go look," you know. So I came out of the house and looked to where they were pointing, and there was just a barrel of flames coming out of the downstairs window. So I ran back upstairs. First thing on my mind, I grabbed my archive. You know, I have this big orange box of everything, you know, it has a copy of everything. And I grabbed that and brought that out, set it outside, and I ran back in. I was going to grab my hard drive and my computer, and they basically tackled me and said, "You're not going back in." And it just basically exploded. You know, the cops showed up, patted me down, and then put me in the car because it was like 6 degrees out, and I was basically in pajamas. And which I always thought was friggin' fantastic. My house is burning down, and the cops got to pat me down, feel my balls, you know, before he let me get in the warm car.
Right.
But at any rate, I get in the car, and I'm watching, and then all of a sudden, all my windows flew out of the house, and I knew it was over then.
Yeah. There was a 25-year-old woman who was below you.
Yeah, and she died.
And she passed away in the fire. The house was a complete loss. I personally am very extremely close with previous tenants of that home.
Yeah.
And there are some stories about that house being haunted.
Yeah.
Especially where that girl lived. Which I'm not going to really get into. Their stories. That's theirs if they want to tell them. But
yeah.
But the reason why I want to talk about this is obviously your house burned down. You lost everything. Everything you owned.
Yep.
And I was quite proud of this. And I'm sure you were happy and appreciative too. But the entire Cleveland music scene came together. People that didn't even know you and were donating and helping you out. And it's
also the worldwide like experimental scene too.
Yeah. I mean, people just came out of the woodwork to help you out, and it just seemed like you bounced back quicker than anybody I've ever met in my entire life.
It was quite humbling. I mean, like people did benefit shows for me, like in Chicago, Cleveland. People did compilation CDs for me.
Yeah.
You know, like I've told Pauline, it was almost like attending my own funeral without being dead, you know? Like,
yeah,
I got to get a little glimpse of, you know, like how people felt about me. You know what I mean?
Or even if they didn't even know you. I mean,
yeah, well, that as well, too.
It's just, you know, here's a shitty thing that happened to an artist.
I was never like, you know, a big enormous charity person. If something struck me, I would throw money at it, but pretty charitable now. You know,
It changes you.
it does. It does. I mean, and I saw that what the effect of, you know, giving what you can for somebody can do. Because, like, I think the first record that I made of Murderous Vision after the fire was like 4 months after.
Yeah, it wasn't long.
You know,
It wasn't long. It seemed like you bounced right back.
how in the hell is that possible?
You were
though?
doing shows and doing
Yeah,
gigs.
yeah.
You know?
Well, I came out of that like with kind of it was the weirdest thing ever, you know, because like I'm not the type of person that really likes to have anything given to me, and
I'm
one
worried
of
about
the
that too.
one of the cornerstones of my pride is just the fact that I got a job when I was 15 years old and been working ever since, and you know, anything that I ever wanted to make happen was directly on my own spine. So I mean, I snapped right back to it, sort of out of guilt, you know, like all these people did a lot of this stuff for me. It took a couple years in silence to work that trauma out, you know. And it wasn't, I mean, some of it was like the mortality thing, like, you know, but most of it was the guilt, you know, just like feeling like shit that everybody did so much for me, you know, which I should have, and I felt good about it too, don't get me wrong, that's where the conflict of feeling is, but it was something that was very foreign and strange to me.
Yeah.
You know, it made me feel better than I've ever felt to know that people gave a shit, but also to stand naked and vulnerable in front of this whole community of people that I've known for a long time, you know, as this, you know, death industrial band, you know, in 6-degree weather in my jammies saying help me, even though I never uttered the words help me. But,
No, you did not.
you know,
No.
but it's a weird mix, and I'm sure other people have gone through similar things and they know what I'm talking about, you know. But I mean, the whole thing that I literally was 5 minutes from my death, like that affected me for about 2 weeks, and then I was like, okay, it's probably not the first time, you know. But yeah, the whole charity thing was harder to deal with than you would imagine, you know.
So you mentioned that you have another comp coming out at the end of the year.
Yeah.
Is there any new? You did. God, in the last 2 months, you did 2 Murderous Vision records, like recently.
Yeah.
There's Voided Landscapes, and then the one you just handed me.
Well, Obsession, the ones that came out this year were Obsession and Caustic Coagulation, the cassette that I did for New Forces. And both of those, well, some of Obsession was recorded this year, but both of those were actually recorded last year, other than the 3 new tracks on Obsession, because that was a 25th year anniversary release. Obsession was on Chthonic Streams, Derek Rush's label, and it was coinciding with a gig that I played in Brooklyn. But last year was a busy year for me because it was 25 and I wanted to record a bunch of stuff. So I also made Caustic Coagulation last year, but it finally came out this year. And Obsession, he only did like 50 cassettes of that. So me and him had the idea to flesh it out with a further like 3 more tracks and then put it on CD. So that came out this year as well. And I did a digital only release for one of the Bandcamp Fridays called Stagnant Water. So it's been kind of a busy year, but you know, not as busy as last year. I came out of last year just spent, you know.
Yeah.
I did the Surface Bone EP last year with Jeff Curtis, and Obsession, Caustic Coagulation, and the split with Envenomist, like all last year. And you know, I try not to grade my work, but I think that those are like 4 of the best I've ever done in my life, and they all came on year 25. So,
Well, Stephen, I appreciate you doing this with me, man.
I appreciate it too.
It's great to see you live and in person.
Yeah.
I love you and I miss you.
Same.
Jen says hello and she misses you guys as well. She's like, Stephen, it will be a good interview. His laugh is very contagious.
I've heard that before. I find it annoying when I hear it. But it sounds good from inside my head, but not outside.
But thank you so much for
Yeah.
spending time and talking about your life.
Oh man, I love it.
What's coming up next for Murderous Vision?
I don't have any plans really.
No?
Yeah, I'm kind of at a chill out phase.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So when the mood strikes you, you just start recording and...
Yeah. I've been kind of real mellow, and the main thing I'm going to be focusing on next is Jeff Curtis from Vengeance Space Quartet. Me and him have been doing a collab project for almost a year now. Since he came with me to San Francisco in LA to play some Murderous Vision shows as a member, and since then we've been kind of working on some stuff, and we got some cool folks that are going to guest on that too, and we're about halfway through an album, so that's going to be the next thing.
Cool.
Yeah.
Excellent. We'll look forward to that.
Awesome.
I'll plug it whenever
Yeah.
it's out.
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
Cool, man. Thanks
Cool.
so much. I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It means a lot.